Today's topic is pre and paravertebral muscles of the neck. So, as the name indicate, prevertebral muscles are those muscles which are present anterior to the vertebral column, and paravertebral muscles are those which are present adjacent to the vertebral column. So, we will see these muscles in the region of the neck in the following heading: Introduction, prevertebral muscles, the longus colli, the longus capitis, the rectus capitis anterior, rectus capitis lateralis. We will see all these muscles with its origin, insertion, nerve innervation, action. Then paravertebral muscles. In this paravertebral, we will see all the scalenized anterior, medius, and posterior with all its origin, insertion, nerve innervation, action. We will talk about the relation of the scalenus anterior. The relation is very important to understand because the hypertrophy or spasm of the scalenus anterior compresses the important structure. So, which are means that the relation is very important to understand. Then we will talk about the scalenovertebral triangle and clinical anatomy. Removing the skin here. Removing the skin, superficial fascia, then platysma. This region is covered by the deep fascia. The deep fascia is covering all this region here. So, this is prevertebral because the muscles which are present anterior to the vertebra in the region of the neck, prevertebral, and here is the paravertebral. So, same is covered by the deep fascia. Removing the deep fascia, you see the muscle in this paravertebral. So, this paravertebral muscle which are present adjacent to the vertebral column in the region of neck. So, the name of this deep fascia is prevertebral fascia. So, this prevertebral muscle, they are present anterior, rather I have to say it is slightly lateral. So, the location is anterolateral to this vertebral, all this vertebra, they are present anterolateral. Before we land in the detail of the subject, detail of the topic, let's see how we are going to, let's get oriented, how we are going to proceed in the topic, because these muscles are the deep muscles. So, see, this is the superficial. Before this, see, this is the platysma. This is the platysma, and this platysma is here. So, removing the skin, then superficial fascia, we see subcutaneous tissue and platysma muscle. So, here this image is a TS at the level of C6 vertebra, and we can see from superficial to deep skin, then subcutaneous tissue, then this is the platysma. We can see the platysma. This is an anterior aspect. This is the anterior aspect, and here this is the posterior aspect. So, we can see this is the platysma, and then sternocleidomastoid, infrahyoid muscle, thyroid gland, trachea, esophagus. Here we can see this is the carotid sheath. This carotid sheath enclosing the vagus nerve, jugular vein, carotid artery. Then posterior to this esophagus is a retropharyngeal space. Here you can see this is retropharyngeal space, and this is the body of C6 vertebra. So anterior, or we can say anterolateral to this body is prevertebral muscle, and on the side or adjacent to this are paravertebral muscle. So paravertebral muscle, you can see scalenus anterior, scalenus medius, scalenus posterior, and on the posterior aspect here you can see this paraspinal muscle, levator scapulae. So all these muscles in the anterior as well as in the posterior aspect, we see they are enclosed in the deep fascia. Clear? So they are enclosed in the deep fascia, and here this fascia which is enclosing this prevertebral and paravertebral muscle with the other muscle also, this levator scapulae, paraspinal muscle, they are enclosed in prevertebral fascia. We can see different deep fascias including different structure. This deep investing fascia, you can see how it is enclosing sternocleidomastoid. Then we can see pretracheal fascia. This pretracheal fascia, how it is enclosing the thyroid gland. Then we can see this carotid sheath, and we can see the prevertebral fascia. We can see this prevertebral fascia which I am drawing, this in green color. This is prevertebral fascia, and understanding of this different fascia is important because this will help you for the understanding of the clinical anatomy related to the spread of infection and the carcinoma, as well as different surgeries. So infection and at the base of the skull, we can see here any infection at the base of the skull can spread all this long way from the base of the skull to the superior mediastinum through this prevertebral fascia, because here is a prevertebral fascia, here is the alar fascia. So the infection can spread all this long way. That's why the space in between this alar fascia and the prevertebral fascia is known as danger space. Let's get familiar with a few important bony landmarks and structure that will come in the topic. So this is the vertebra, cervical vertebra, and we can see here this is the transverse process. First see the transverse process, and this is the transverse process, and this is the anterior tubercle of transverse process, and this is posterior tubercle of, this is the foramen transversarium. This is the body of the vertebra, and here this is the ventral rami. This is the ventral rami. How you can see how this ventral rami passes over this vertebra from this transverse process, just over a transverse process. See, and we can see in this image how this is the ventral rami of the cervical spinal nerve, and this is the medial branch of cervical dorsal. This is the dorsal rami. This is the dorsal ramus, and this is the ventral ramus. So you can see this ventral ramus, and you can see the dorsal ramus. You can see this artery. This is the vertebral artery passing through foramen transversarium. You can see here. So this structure play important role in the topic, and here we can see, here we see some important bony landmark that play important role in the attachment of the muscle. as well as in other course. First, here we see at this point is the pharyngeal tubercle. Though the pharyngeal tubercle is much visible here in this image, this is the pharyngeal tubercle. And this is the basilar part. See, this is the basilar part. This is the basilar part. This is the foramen magnum. And this one is the occipital condyle. This red mark area here, this one, this is the jugular process. Jugular process. So, understanding of these landmark will help you for the attachment of the muscles. Prevertebral muscle. So, here we will see the prevertebral muscle. They are 4 in number. So, this region is for prevertebral muscles that I have marked in green color. This is for the prevertebral muscle. So they are 4 in number: longus colli, longus capitis, rectus capitis anterior, rectus capitis lateralis. They are weak flexor of head and neck, and they extend from this base of the skull. You can see they extend from this base of the skull to here, to this point, up to the superior mediastinum. They are present anterolateral aspect. They are present anterolateral to this vertebral column, and are covered by thick. They all are covered by thick vertebral fascia, the deep fascia, which I mentioned. So they are covered by the deep fascia, that is prevertebral fascia. Longus colli, as its name indicates, this is the longest prevertebral muscle, and it extends from C1 to T3, first cervical vertebra to third thoracic vertebra. This muscle has got 3 parts. First is the superior oblique part, then vertical part, then inferior oblique part. We will see the origin, insertion, nerve supply, nerve innervation and action. First we see here the origin of the first part. So we can see here, from here, the origin of the first part. See, it originates from transverse process of 5th cervical. This is the transverse process. So originate from the transverse process of C5, then transverse process of C4, then transverse process of C3. Whereas this middle vertical part originates from the bodies. These are the bodies of the vertebra. So whereas the middle vertical part originates from this T3, T2, T1, C7, C6 and C5 vertebrae. And whereas this lower inferior oblique part, this originates from the bodies of T3, can you see T3 here, and T2. Then the insertion of these parts. First part, superior oblique part, insert on the arc of atlas vertebra, C1 arc. Middle vertical part, insert on the bodies of C4, C3 and C2 vertebrae. Whereas the inferior oblique part, insert on the transverse process of, see this inferior oblique part, insert on the transverse process of C6 here, C6 and C5 vertebrae. The action of this longus colli is to flex and rotate the neck. This is the fiber of these longus colli are innervated by the anterior primary rami of C3 and C8. I've shown you the this primary ramis in the beginning of this lecture. So we can see the movement of this longus colli. First, we can see here this movement. This is the flexion. This is the flexion, and this is chiefly brought about by the middle part. Whereas this is the rotation. This rotation is brought about by the lower oblique part. This is the rotation. Now this is again a flexion, but this is a lateral flexion, and this is brought about by the superior and the inferior part of the longus colli. Longus capitis. See, longus capitis. See, this is the longus capitis. This is the longus capitis. So the fiber of this longus capitis originates from the anterior tubercle of this anterior tubercle of transverse process of C6. Here, this is the transverse process and its anterior tubercle. So originate from the anterior tubercle of transverse process of C6, C5 and C3, C4, C5 and C6. You can see this. Let me focus this C6, C5, C4 and C3 here. Clear? That is means C3 to C6. Then insertion. Now the fiber of this longus capitis, here we can see it inserts on the, inserts on the inferior basilar part. I will show you where is the basilar part, and even I have shown you the basilar part in the beginning of this lecture. So inserts on the inferior basilar part of occipital bone. Here. Nerve innervation action is to flex the cervical spine and atlanto-occipital joint. That means causes the flexion at the neck. Now, nerve innervation is by the anterior primary rami of C1 to C6. See, this is the movement, that is flexion at neck. Rectus capitis anterior. Rectus capitis, this is the rectus capitis anterior. See how the fibers are running. See. So the origin of this rectus capitis anterior is from the lateral mass. See, what is the lateral mass? See, as we talked about the transverse process in these vertebrae, other vertebrae. So similarly in this C1, there is a small projection which is, as you can assume, as that of the transverse process. It is a small projection laterally. So here is a small projection from this lateral mass of C1. This is the point of the origin of rectus capitis anterior, and inserts on the basilar part of occipital bone. Here we can see the basilar part of occipital bone. Basilar part of occipital bone. Action is to flex the atlanto-occipital joint. See, wherever the word is atlanto-occipital means how occipital bone, shown you the occipital bone at the base of the skull, and atlanto is the first vertebra. So there is a joint in between these two structure. Clear? That's why the atlanto-occipital word you will seen in the earlier slide also. So now it's nerve innervation. It is innervated by the anterior primary rami of C1. See, this is what I was talking about. this basilar part of the occipital bone. Clear? You can see in this, and the action is to flexion at neck. Here is the basilar part of occipital bone. You can see. Now rectus capitis lateralis. We can see here, this is the rectus capitis lateralis. The origin from the lateral mass of C1, shown you the lateral mass earlier. Now inserts on the jugular process of occipital bone. Here, jugular process of occipital bone. Now this jugular process of occipital I already shown you in the beginning of the lecture. Action: lateral flexes the atlanto-occipital joint. That is lateral flexion of neck. Innervated by anterior primary rami of C1 and C2. We can see the lateral flexion at the neck by this muscle, rectus capitis lateralis. Now we will talk about the paravertebral muscle, scalene muscles. Here we can see paravertebral group of muscles. See, before this I want to show you this sternocleidomastoid. See, this is sternocleidomastoid. Clear? This is sternocleidomastoid. And we can see here these are the paravertebral group of muscles, scaleni muscles, scaleni anterior, scaleni medius, and scaleni posterior is here. So these paravertebral group of muscles, they run from transverse process of cervical vertebra toward and to the upper ribs. Clear? These paravertebral group of muscles are covered by this sternocleidomastoid, and all around they are here surrounded by prevertebral fascia. It's all around surrounded by prevertebral fascia. So now we will see the arrangement of paravertebral group of muscle. See, let's get familiar to the different structure here. So here we can see the vertebra. These all are the vertebrae arranged. This one is C1, C2, C3, C4, C5, C6, C7, and this one is a sternum. This is clavicle, and this is lateral view. You can see this is the lateral view of first rib, and this is the lateral view of second rib. Now these all are the paravertebral group of muscles. See, now we will talk about each muscle in detail. First, we talk about the scalenus anterior. See, here is the scalenus anterior. This is the scalenus anterior. Clear? So the origin of this scalenus anterior is from the anterior tubercle of transverse process of C3, C4, C5 and C6 vertebrae. And the fibers, they go and insert on, here we can see the scaleni tubercle. See, here is the scaleni tubercle, and on the superior aspect of first rib. Now the action is to, let me draw this to show you the action. What is anterolateral flexion? See, the flexion in this direction is an anterior flexion. Clear? And the flexion in this direction is the lateral flexion, and if it is in this direction, then it is known as anterolateral. This one is anterior, this one is lateral, and this is, say, this is an one axis, this is an another axis, and this is an another axis. So this movement here in this direction is anterolateral flexion of the neck. So the action is, first we see this is an accessory muscle. So this is accessory muscle for inspiration. It's not a chief muscle for the inspiration, but it support in the inspiration because it lift the rib, lift the first rib. So it helps in inspiration. And second is the anterolateral flexion of the neck. Clear? And this is innervated by anterior primary rami of C4, C5 and C6. Here we can see the scalenus anterior. See, this is a three-dimensional view to show you the scalenus anterior, and focus over the vertebra and the point of insertion. So inserted on the superior aspect of the first rib and the scalenite tubercle. Here you can see the tubercle where it is inserting. So here to show you this anterior scalenite inserting here. So they are passing in between. You can see this is the subclavian vessel. So this is subclavian artery. This one is subclavian artery, and this one is subclavian vein. So they are inserted in between these, the vessels of subclavian. Scalenus medius. Here we can see the fibers of scalenus medius. So they originate from the posterior tubercle of transverse process of C2, C3, C4, C5, C6 and C7 vertebra, and insert here on the superior aspect of neck of first rib. See, action is, it is also an accessory muscle for the inspiration, that is to lift the rib. So it lifts the first rib, as well as lateral flexion of cervical spine. So this one is scalenus anterior action was anterolateral, but now here the scalenus medius is action is lateral flexion. Why? You can see the position of insertion. So here we see the scalenus anterior is anterior to the scalenus medius, and in other word we can say scalenus medius is just posterior to the scalenus anterior. Clear? So that's why one action is lateral flexion of cervical spine. Now this is innervated by anterior primary rami of C3, C4, C5, C6, C7 and C8. Here in this three-dimensional view, scalenus medius, you can see more clearly the point of the origin to the point of the insertion and how the fibers are running. You can see the neck of the first rib. It is near to the neck of the first rib. Clear? Scalenus posterior. See, you can see here the scalenus posterior, how the fibers are running. You can see. So scalenus posterior originates from the posterior tubercle of transverse process. We can see here the posterior tubercle on the transverse process of C4, C5, C6, you can see, and insert on posterolateral surface of this second rib. You can see here. This is posterolateral. This aspect is anterior, this aspect is the posterior. So on the posterolateral surface of second rib behind the tubercle of serratus anterior. Clear? Behind, here is a tubercle of serratus anterior, so it is behind the tubercle of serratus anterior. Action is, it's a accessory to inspiration and lateral flexion of the spine. See, it is the lateral flexion of the spine. Clear? This is innervated by anterior primary rami of C6, C7 and C8. Here we can see clearly the origin and insertion of scalenus posterior in three-dimensional view. You can clearly see the origin and insertion, the point of attachment of the scalenus posterior. Clear? Now scalenus minimus. Before this, let's see here Simpson fascia, that is suprapleural membrane, and already you have gone with the Simpson fascia during your thorax for the pleura at the time of the lecture of the pleura. So there you have seen the Simpson fascia. So this Simpson fascia attaches here at the transverse process of C7 vertebra, and it runs downward obliquely and attaches here at the inner border of first rib. Clear? So this is the inner border of the first rib, and this here we see this is the cervical pleura. This way cervical pleura is this way cervical pleura, and here is the apex of the lung. So this scalenus minimus we see here. So this scalenus minimus attaches at the point at the transverse process. Here this is the transverse process of C7, and this, the fiber of this scalenus minimus, they run downward laterally, you can see, and the fiber split and encloses the inferior trunk of plexus, that brachial plexus. So inferior trunk, and we can see just anterior to this scalenus minimus is this anterior scaleni, and posterior to this is the scalenus. This is middle scaleni. So we can see how the fibers are going and attaching at the inner border of, this is the first rib. So inner border of the first rib, and here we can see this is the subclavian artery and the vein. Clear? So this origin and in the insertion of this scalenus minimus is, first origin is from the anterior tubercle of transverse process of C7, whereas it inserted here at the suprapleural membrane. So actually you have seen here, this is the inner border of the first rib where the this Simpson fascia attaches. Now the fibers, when they are coming downward here at the first rib, so there is a Simpson fascia, so it attaches at the suprapleural membrane or a Simpson fascia. Its action is to support the suprapleural membrane, and it is innervated by anterior primary rami of C7. Let's try to understand the relation of scalenus anterior. So the importance of this relation is because the hypertrophy of the scalenus anterior or the spasm of the scalenus anterior compresses the important structure. So the understanding of this relation is important. So here we are having two images. This is the first image, and this is the second image. So the first image is comparatively easier for you at the time of the examination when you have to write in your paper. So you can draw this diagram for your examination, but this diagram is for the understanding of the structures. So let's try to understand the structure in relation to scalenus anterior from this anterior to posterior, or you can say superficial to deep. Clear? So first here what we see, where is the scalenus anterior? Here is the scalenus anterior. So this is the scalenus anterior. Clear? Now moving from superficial to deep is first we see skin, then superficial fascia, then platysma, then investing deep cervical fascia over this scalenus anterior. Clear? Then further we are moving deeper, we see a clavicle. See, this is the clavicle. The clavicle is. So removing all the structure, we see this clavicle. Then further we are moving deeper to this, we see sternocleidomastoid. So this is, you can see sternocleidomastoid. Then further we see inferior belly of omohyoid. Inferior belly of omohyoid. Further going deeper, we see here, this is the structure. This is the carotid sheath. This carotid sheath, which contain, we can see the structure, internal jugular vein and common carotid artery as well as vagus nerve. Clear? This vagus nerve is here. Further going deeper, that is from before backward, we see this important structure. This here we can see this suprascapular artery and transverse cervical artery. Clear? Okay. Now further as we are moving ahead, we see a fascia over it, the fascia over this anterior scalenus anterior. This is fascia is prevertebral fascia, already explained you. Then removing this prevertebral fascia, we see this important nerve, this phrenic nerve. Clear? This phrenic nerve. Clear? Now in this image we can see what I said here, sternocleidomastoid carotid sheath. So see, this is sternocleidomastoid, then this is inferior belly of omohyoid, then jugular vein, this is the carotid sheath. Further going deeper, we see this transverse cervical artery. Further going deeper, this prevertebral fascia. Further going deeper, phrenic nerve. Clear? Now after this scalenus anterior. Now these are the structure from in front, from before backward. Now we will see such structures which are present behind to this scalenus anterior. Clear? Behind to this scalenus anterior are that second part of this subclavian artery, the second part of subclavian artery, and this important muscle scalenus medius. Clear? And here posterior to is that fascia just now that we have talked, that is Siptian fascia or suprapleural membrane. Clear? And one structure left, this is brachial plexus. So brachial plexus, we can see upper trunk, middle trunk and lower trunk of this brachial plexus is also present posterior to this scalenus anterior. Clear? So these are the structure present posterior to this skeleton anterior. Now we can see the same structure here that we have talked in this image. So posterior to this is, we can see this root of this brachial plexus. Clear? And this subclavian artery, the second part of the subclavian artery, scalenus medius. These are the structure. Now the structure which are present above, the structure which is present above is, we can see here the scalenus anterior, and here we can see a branch from inferior thyroid artery running above. So this structure is present above, whereas here at the below is, we can see that this is the base of scaleno-vertebral triangle. This scaleno-vertebral triangle is important for your this as a short note in your examination, short note, as well as for the clinical. It is important for the clinical because many important structure you will see in this triangle. So important clinically as well as for your short notes. So here we see this is scaleno-vertebral triangle. See this is a scaleno-vertebral triangle. So scaleno-vertebral triangle, it is present bilaterally, both sides. Clear? And it is triangular space. You can see this is the space. So it is a triangular space. Clear? And this is present at the root of the neck. So this is bilateral triangular present at the root of the neck. Now the boundaries of the scaleno-vertebral triangle are, first we see the medially. This is medially. So medially we see this lower oblique part of this longus colli medially, and laterally we see this scalenus anterior muscle. Clear? And here at the apex we see this is C6 vertebral. So the transverse process of C6 will be here, somewhere here. So the apex bounded by the transverse process of C6 vertebra. And here is, this is the base. So this base by the first part of, we can see this is subclavian artery. So this is the first part of subclavian artery. Clear? So base by the first part of subclavian artery, base medially by this longus colli oblique part, and laterally by the scalenus anterior, and the apex bounded by the transverse process of C6. Clear? This is medial boundary, lateral boundary, apex and base. Now this triangular structure here on its posterior wall. So the posterior to this triangular structure, the wall is formed by the transverse process moving from superior to inferior. Clear? Moving from superior to inferior. So is by this transverse process of, let me draw here, this is the C7, here is C7. So the posterior wall moving from superior to inferior. Clear? Superior to inferior. What structure formed the posterior wall? First is transverse process of C7. Then ramus of C8. Then further neck of, here the neck of first rib. Then further moving down, here the copula of pleura. Clear? So these are the important structure forming the posterior wall. Now we talk about the content of scaleniovertebral triangle. So the content, first part of vertebral artery and vein. So the first part of vertebral artery and vein. Then cervical sympathetic chain and middle and inferior cervical ganglion and ansa subclavia. We can see first part of vertebral artery, and here this and this we can see both this one and this one. Clear? This cervical sympathetic chain, middle and inferior cervical ganglions, and they are connected by this on the both side. They are connected by ansa subclavia. Ansa subclavia, and this loop in front of this subclavian artery. So in Viva, question can be asked, what are the structure in front of this scaleniovertebral triangle? Clear? So structure in the front are, we have seen this carotid sheath. Clear? Here, this is the carotid sheath. This is the carotid sheath. Then in front structures are this phrenic nerve. This one is the phrenic nerve and inferior thyroid artery. This structure in the front, inferior thyroid artery, and this thoracic duct in the front. Remember, this thoracic duct present only on the left aspect, on left scaleniovertebral triangle. Okay, because already you have gone over the lecture of this thoracic duct and you are aware of its course and relation. So it passes on the left. So these are the structure, and the detail of this clinical anatomy you will see in the lecture of root of the neck. But let's see few. First, this Horner syndrome. So you can see here the Horner syndrome. So for this Horner syndrome, remember one mnemonic: sample, SAMPLE, sample. So in this Horner syndrome, what happened? There is injury in the sympathetic nerve fiber. Clear? S stands for sympathetic nerve fiber injury. So it result in this anhidrosis. So it result in anhidrosis. Anhidrosis is what? It is the loss of sweating on that side of, say, this is left side. So it is a loss of sweating on that side of face. Then M for meiosis. Meiosis is the constriction of this pupil. Clear? Constriction of the pupil. Then P stand for ptosis. Ptosis is the drooping. See, this is an upper eyelid. So drooping of the upper eyelid. Clear? L stand for loss of ciliospinal reflex, which means when you pinch at the neck, skin over the neck. So pinching at the skin of the neck, it will not going to produce any dilatation here at the pupil. So this is loss of ciliospinal reflex. Then E stand for anophthalmos, which means this eyeball is retracted. Retraction of this eyeball. Clear? Then common carotid artery compression. So this common carotid artery can be compressed against the carotid tubercle, and I've shown you the transverse process at the level of this sixth vertebra. Clear? So at that level, at the transfer process of C6 vertebra, there you can compress this carotid artery and you can feel the carotid artery. This method is used for various surgical intervention. So the importance of this. So now next is the scalenus anterior syndrome. This scalenus anterior syndrome is this hypertrophy or the spasm caused by the enlargement of anterior scaleni or spasm of this anterior scaleni, which result into the compression of the important structure that I have shown you earlier. Then for this, a surgical procedure, scalenotomy is done to relieve the compressed structure. This how we finishes the lecture over the pre and paravertebral muscle. I hope you understood well. Thank you.